Flow Unleashed.
Welcome to Flow Unleashed, your podcast for human performance. This series goes far beyond performance tips and productivity hacks. This is a journey into the heart of what it means to flourish, not just at work, not just in sport, but as a human being navigating a complex, fast-moving world. This series takes a wider approach to human performance than our other series and tackles some of the broader themes that are hot topics at psychological conferences. Across the series, we'll explore what it truly means to flourish, mentally, physically, emotionally, socially, and economically. We'll speak to leading thinkers and practitioners from a diverse range of fields such as psychology, neuroscience, education, innovation, leadership, and even indigenous wisdom. And what unites them all is a shared commitment to helping us unlock our potential and live more connected, purposeful lives. But let's be clear, flourishing isn't about constant happiness or stress-free living. It's not a glossy, curated version of well-being. Finding flow and flourishing is about the real, lived experience of engaging deeply with life's challenges and possibilities. It's about creating the inner and outer conditions where human beings can grow, where performance becomes sustainable, and well-being is not a side note, but the very soil in which excellence grows. In our opening conversations, we go straight to the heart of this, the science of flow. Flow is often described as a state of complete absorption, of losing oneself in an activity so deeply that our actions feel more effortless than usual. It's a state athletes crave, artists chase, and high performers depend on. But flow isn't mystical. It's measurable. It has rules. And it's available to all of us. You'll hear from one of the world's most respected flow researchers who helped bring this concept to the forefront of psychology. Together, we unpack how this optimal state isn't reserved for elite performers. It's something we can all cultivate in our work, our relationships, even in parenting and learning. Of course, not every moment is one of flow. Often we find ourselves in opposite states, such as languishing, that foggy, flat zone where we're not quite depressed, but not quite flourishing either. You'll hear from the very psychologist who coined this term, as we explore why languishing has become one of the most common and overlooked mental states of our time, and more importantly, what we can do about it. Human flourishing doesn't happen in isolation. It's shaped by our systems, our schools, our workplaces, our communities. What happens when we rethink how children are taught, not as passive recipients of knowledge, but as intrinsically motivated learners? We dive into educational models like Montessori and experiential innovation to discover how cultivating independence and curiosity from an early age sets the stage for lifelong flow and self-directed learning. And we'll examine how innovation itself can be cultivated, not just in Silicon Valley or research labs, but in classrooms, communities, and even among so-called disengaged students. You'll hear real-world stories of transformation through hands-on learning and why the future of education and leadership depends on empowering people to become creators, not just consumers, and meaning makers, not just profiteers. Being our best isn't only a personal pursuit, it's a societal imperative. In this series, we ask some big questions. What does it mean to live in a flourishing society? How do we define success beyond GDP and economic growth? And what if the health of our people and our planet become our most important metric? Through the lens of positive peace and public happiness, we examine how communities around the world are reimagining governance, education, and well-being as public goods. These aren't abstract ideals, they're deeply practical shifts that create safety, trust, and opportunity in a world too often defined by disconnection and conflict. We also take a look at leadership, not just from the corner office, but from the perspective of self-leadership and relational intelligence. What if great leadership didn't require superhuman effort, but rather a deep understanding of human dynamics? We'll explore how positive psychology is reshaping how we think about influence, power, and trust, and how leaders can access their own values, emotions, and aspirations to uplift the people around them. We'll go beyond buzzwords to discover actionable frameworks that leaders can use to navigate uncertainty, inspire teams, and create psychological safe environments for growth. And we won't ignore the inner world. In fact, some of the most powerful conversation in this series are about the hidden terrain of consciousness. You'll hear from a renowned photographer and filmmaker who spent years documenting indigenous healers and shamans, people who regularly enter altered states not to escape reality, but to access wisdom and healing. We challenge modern assumptions about mental health and ask what it means to integrate non-ordinary experiences in a culture that too often pathologizes what it doesn't understand. This theme of integration continues in our conversations about the brain, how neuroscience can help us become more emotionally agile, more collaborative, and more compassionate. You'll learn how simple insights about mirror neurons, emotional contagion, and predictive coding can fundamentally change how we lead, teach, and connect with others. It's not enough to know the science, we must apply it with nuance and intention. And all of this leads us back to a central truth. Performance and well-being are not separate goals. Rather, they're deeply interdependent. To perform at our best, whether on the field, in the boardroom, in a classroom, or at the dinner table, we need environments that support our biology, nurture our minds, and respect our emotions. We need systems that cultivate connection, not just competition. And we need leaders, educators, and citizens who are willing to ask better questions about what a good life looks like. So whether you're a coach, a psychologist, a teacher, a parent, or someone simply committed to your own development, this series is for you. Not because we have all the answers, but because together we're willing to explore them. Each episode offers not just knowledge, but insight. Not just theory, but practice. Not just science, but humanity. This is Flow Unleashed. Welcome to Series 3.